Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast where we have digital discussions from the worlds of pop culture, entertainment, and sports. And as always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis, and on Twitter I go as PD Beats. And very thrilled, and it's an honor to have Jason Maslico, aka Dart Guy, on the podcast. Jason, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks a lot, Peter, for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh no, this is really cool, and we've been wanting to do this for a while, and I'm glad we're finally making it happen.
Yeah, we had to get our schedules to link up there. Good thing we got it done today.
Hey, we're both busy guys, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, you know what? You've done a lot of interviews, and you've done a lot of, there's a lot of articles on you of, how it started, so I'm not going to make you obviously repeat that, because a lot of people, know how this came to be, right? Someone took a photo of you with a dart in your mouth at a game with your amazing... some people call it war paint, your Toronto Maple Leafs war paint. But what's incredible is what you've been able to do with it. And man, what you've been able to do with it is kind of embodies what we do on Popternative. We're all about pop culture, and we're also about social media and how social media impacts things. So talk a little bit about, because you have a show now on TSN 1050 with Todd Shapiro, but talk about how that came to be, and the door opened for you to do a lot of cool stuff because of this fame from the games and social media. But talk about how you were able to properly capitalize on it.
Well, you know what? I think it's a matter of just the people could relate to me really when it came down to it. In the end, what I embodied, that image of me at the Leafs game, kind of resonated with all of Leafs Nation and perhaps fans of sports everywhere. And I think for that kind of reason, it really kept going long beyond the playoffs being over. It was something that people kind of, I don't know, I guess you could just say they related to it. And being in the center of the hockey universe, opportunities are there if you do things right. And TSN had basically just reached out to Todd Shapiro and I and said, listen, we think there's an opportunity here to do something a little bit different. Do a show that's going to be very fan driven. Yeah. Todd and I, neither one of us claim to be experts in the world of sports, but we're just diehard fans. And, TSN thought it'd be a great idea to give everybody a chance to get a very fans perspective on the Leafs and hockey, and it's turned out pretty well so far.
Yeah, almost like a for the fans, by the fans type.
Well, that's
angle.
Basically kind of what we go with, right?
Yeah.
That's one of our tag sayings for the show, is that we are a show for fans by fans, and the big thing is we like to have that fan engagement. We love having people call in and giving everybody the opportunity to have their say and to have their airtime, and you know what, maybe just voice frustrations or what they would like to see happen with the Leafs. Or any sports really, for that matter. We've touched on the Argonauts and their great season, and GSP there last week having his return to the ring. So we kind of get into a little bit of everything.
Oh, absolutely. And you see from your social media, I mean, obviously, diehard Leafs fan, but you're into other sports as well. And I think what's really good is you're able to, you're using your social media, because obviously the amount of followers that you had, it just skyrocketed once. And I think as they say, the quote unquote, the TSN turning point was, I think the interview of James Duffy, I think was pretty big in that regards.
Being on with Duffy was pretty surreal and pretty amazing, and I never could have dreamed, someday in the future I would have a spot at one of the desks at TSN myself. But I think it was collectively, I had done so many interviews, and I had been given the opportunity to show that I was more than just a painted face. And a big contributor to that was actually Todd Shapiro. When all of this took off, Todd had me on all throughout the summer as a regular guest on the show on Friday. And it basically gave me a little bit of I guess, a portfolio, you could say, of on air radio experience to show that maybe if given the opportunity, I could maybe handle myself behind the mic.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to say, but did you ever envision yourself like 5, 10 years ago doing something like this? Like, regardless of like the internet fame or not, like, did you want to go into like radio and like talk a little bit about that?
You know what? For me, being a hockey fan, a lifelong hockey fan, I always had the dream of playing in the NHL, like every other Canadian kid, boy or girl, growing up that loves the game. But obviously, my career didn't go that way. I ended up getting into a lot of industrial work and stuff. I never could have envisioned that something like this would have happened for me. But by all means, the desire was always there. Not necessarily per se to have a radio show with Todd Shapiro, but to be involved in the hockey world on some kind of level, whether that would have been broadcasting or the other opportunity that's recently come up, my job with the Aurora Tigers Junior A Club as a scout. So by all means, I've definitely always wanted to get back into the hockey slash sporting world on some level. I just never could have dreamed it would have been with TSN 1050.
Well, absolutely, and I find it relates to your scouting job. Is like what's interesting is, and I think you've talked about this in you talked about this in a few interviews. Like you've always had a love for scouting. You've always had a big like in-depth knowledge of hockey, but now there's more eyes on your social media, right? So
Yeah.
more people are able to kind of see your tweets and your in-depth kind of breaking down the game. So that kind of opens doors as well.
Yeah, well, and as long as the audience is listening, absolutely, I get to perhaps showcase the fact that I do have a little bit of knowledge about the game. And I was kind of laughing about it actually. The last two shows that we did on TSN 1050, my keys to the Leafs games. I not to toot my own horn, but we're both right bang on against St. Louis and again last night against Boston. Basically, how I outlined I thought the game was going to go is exactly kind of how it went. So if anybody was listening, maybe they would maybe they were going to see that I was more than just a painted face.
I mean, it the show, like you talked a little bit about it, like the show is kind of the fan driven. What do you think about, they call it hockey Twitter, they call it, that's the term of it, and we're on it all the time. What do you think of the current state of hockey Twitter? There's a lot of passion there. How do we control and moderate that passion so it's not always negative all the time? Is there a solution, or are we kind of doomed?
I wish there was. I mean, that's kind of the joy of social media is that it is and free speech is people can basically say anything they want. Unfortunately, a lot of people out there tend to lean towards the negative stuff, and I just try. I've always tried personally to convey a positive message. We try to keep things very positive on our show. And I think you're never going to be able to control how people want to act. I think the best thing to do for people like yourself, you and myself, is to just keep trying to portray that positive image, those positive messages, and maybe it'll rub off on people. But unfortunately, I don't think you're ever going to get rid of the Twitter trolls or those fake accounts that just love to get the negativity out there.
So what I found interesting is last year I had a panel on the show I had Dave Backish, aka Brown Sound, who plays guitar in Sum 41 because he's a big sports fan as well. And I had Essa Fung, who is like used to be, well, when Vine was still around, he was a big Vine star, got a lot of like millions of hits on Vine. And I had Michael Blinn from NHL Sports Illustrated's NHL, and we talked about trolls a little bit. And Essa was telling me that a lot of trolls out there, like for example, I'm sure you've come across them on Twitter, dark guy, like I'm sure
I've had my fair share.
but like, believe it or not, some of those people actually admire you and are just trying to get your attention, so that you kind of like DM them, say, "Hey, what gives?" And then they're like, "I was just kidding. I didn't mean it. Now we're talking." Like it's almost like a trap.
Yeah, yeah, I could perhaps see that. I have a strict policy that I don't DM any trolls. I usually do my best just to ignore them, but I can see where you're coming from on that, and I guess maybe it makes sense
It's
where,
like an attention-seeking thing.
yeah, and you know what, maybe perhaps somebody isn't as comfortable to just reach out and politely say, "Hey, man, I think you're cool." I guess that's easier for them to try that attempt, I guess.
hmm Have you ever thought about making like? Have you ever thought about doing other projects besides the radio show, like like a blog, maybe call it Beyond the Face Paint or something? Have you ever thought about getting into that specifically, or are you just focusing on radio right now?
Well, you know what? Being it's well documented that I'm a rookie in the media world and radio broadcasting. So for me right now, it's very important to focus on the opportunity I've been given with TSN 1050. They've been put a lot of faith in me, and you know, perhaps risked a little bit to offer me this opportunity. So I'm very much focused on that right now. A lot of people have suggested perhaps, you know, doing my own personal blog and stuff like that. But just with the scouting and stuff like that, right now I'm either at an arena, or I'm watching the Leafs, or I'm watching hockey, or you know, I'm at the TSN studios. So just trying to focus on what I have right now.
So this is a question I just thought of, and I find it interesting because you've been on a lot of podcasts, you've done a lot of interviews. What
Yep.
has been the like, I'm sure there's like obvious questions that you kind of get on every podcast, but has there
Yep.
been a question that you've gotten where you've kind of not struggled, but were caught off guard with, that was kind of like a little bit like, oh geez, you know what I mean? Like, has that ever happened?
Yeah, you know what? There is one, and it was in the summertime, but for the life of me, I can't really remember off the top of my head what it was. But there was only one where somebody kind of really came out of left field with a question, and thank God I'm fairly quick on my feet. I was able to answer it.
Yeah, because it's not even like, it's not necessarily like negative, but it's just like I've done
Yeah,
interviews. There's interviews like just a question comes where you're just not. It's out of left field. Like you're not prepared for it, so you got to kind of think a little bit because it didn't really have to do with kind of the itinerary of what was going to be talked about.
yeah, and I really wish I could remember for you who it was and what the question was, but I can just remember the one. And you know, like you said, going into it, you know, I was expecting the typical how did this all come about? You know, how much were your tickets in Washington, that type thing. And the one question, and I wish I could remember, but yeah, I've been caught off guard once for
But
sure.
the thing is, it's like, I mean, I'm sure you're tired of answering all those questions. Like, I mean, no, not like, I know you'll be happy to talk about how it started, but it's like there's a lot of content out there. You know what I mean? I want to know other things. Like, I want, like I said, you know, like we just started with Todd Shapiro, so I want to kind of get into that. But another thing too is your perspective of social media is very interesting because you know that was like, it's not like you only started to go on social media like after the whole dark guy thing. You've been a big like member of kind of like the Leafs Nation for like many years.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I've always been involved in you know, chatting with Leaf fans and stuff like that, whether it be Facebook or Twitter. My Twitter wasn't all that interesting before all of this happened, though. I did only have like 16 followers, and they were mainly friends. And you know, I would just put up the odd meme of Austin Matthews that I made, or something along those lines.
So you have a show, let's say, and basically Todd Shapiro calls in sick and says, "Jason, I can't do the show. It's just you today, but I
Yep.
have the power, the magical power of getting you three guests of like any guests you want. One's uh one is a Leafs guest, like Leafs themed, and then the two are anything else. Who would you pick? Who are your three dream guests?
Oh boy. So if I got to go with my one Leafs guest, If you want past or present,
It could be anything.
okay. I was a goalie growing up. My favorite goalie was Ed Belfour.
Ed Belfour, okay.
The day he signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs was perhaps one of the happiest days in my Toronto fandom. So I would give anything to have a chat with Eddie Belfour.
Eddie the Eagle.
I believe he's got some interesting stories.
Oh, absolutely. And then are there like on the top of your head any other like non-hockey guests?
You know what? I think a great interview for me would be Al Pacino. I'd love to talk to Al Pacino.
Al Pacino.
That'd be a great one. Always been a fan of his movies, and I guess maybe if we went something a little bit more serious, well, I don't know how serious it would be, but you know what? Maybe a past prime minister. I think I wouldn't have a problem chatting with a Trudeau or Jean Chrétien or something like that. It would be an interesting, different perspective on things.
Oh, absolutely. So, Ed Belfour, Al Pacino, and a former prime minister. That sounds like one hell of a lineup.
Well, it would the show topics would be bouncing all over the place.
Awesome. Well, we'll wrap up, but Jason, thank you so much for coming on the show, and congrats on all the success, and it's probably one of the coolest stories of 2017, man. So it's an honor for you to come on the show, for you to have you on.
And I appreciate your interest in having me on, and letting me plug my show there with Todd. So I thank you so much.
Absolutely. Next time we'll have you on, we'll have you on a panel. Because originally we spoke about having you on a panel, like me, you, and a couple other people. But it's difficult sometimes to coordinate that stuff. That's why
everybody's got busy schedules.
The one-on-ones are easy to coordinate.
Yeah, for sure.
But thank you so much, and I wish you all the best, man. Seriously.
Well, I appreciate that, Peter. And you know what? Feel free to call into the show. We'd love to have you chat there too, and maybe we could talk about your podcast on our show.
Yeah, let's do that. That'd be awesome. Well, until next time, this has been Jason, aka Dark Guy, and PD Beats for Popternative. You can catch previous episodes of Popternative, and you can catch Dark Guy and Todd Shapiro on TSN 1050 at what time?
Saturdays, 3 till 5 p.m.
3 till 5 p.m. Well, until next time, we hope you enjoyed this previous episodes on our website and on YouTube as well. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. I know it's just Sunday, but have a great week, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.